I'm asking.
Yeah, it is.
I'm not fighting, Junior. Stop.
A very good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the media. My name is Nonkululeko Phokane. I am the head of communication for the SAPS. We apologize for the delayed start, but the Minister of Police is here to lead this particular media briefing that will outline the summit, which is the first one ever to be hosted within the South African Police Service. Let me outline and acknowledge members of the panel that are joining us this morning for this media briefing. Let me acknowledge the presence of the Minister of Police, Minister Senzo Mchunu, Deputy Minister of Police, Mr. Castle Matale, the National Commissioner of the South African Police Service, General Fani Masimula, the National Head of the DPCI, Lieutenant General Dr. Lieutenant General Sibia and the CEO of SIRA, Mr. Manabela Chauke. Members of the media, the Minister of Police will take us through the overview of the policing summit that we had from Tuesday at the Emperor's Palace, Tuesday the 8th of April, and thereafter the National Commissioner will then take us through the deliberations that were held during the policing summit and the way proceeding to that. Without further waste of time, Mr. Senzo Mchunu. Minister, over to you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Pokane, for leading us in this press briefing. My greetings to and all other protocols are observed. As this week, we convened our 3-day National Policing Summit, which commenced this Tuesday, the 8th of April, and ended yesterday. We had the singular honor of His Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa rendering an opening address to the summit, which we appreciate. In that summit, there were officials from Saps, there were other law enforcement agencies, organized labor, members of academia, health professionals, our partners from the private sector, and civil society organizations, and all of them, and that includes community policing forums, all of them engaged in robust discussions and made very meaningful contributions during various commissions that we held. We must say that it was very refreshing to see South Africans passionate not only on policing, but about the safety and security of our country. This is what we did in the summit in those 3 days. Efficiency in action, optimizing South Africa's policing potential. And this fits squarely with our goal, the realization of an efficient, effective, and responsive, proactive and professional police service. The summit is conceptualized not as a once-off, not minister, not national commissioner linked, but we wish that it could be a standard practice held every 5 years. 3 key priorities have been set for the 7th administration, namely driving inclusive growth and job creation, reducing poverty, and building a capable, ethical, and developmental state. These priorities serve as a guide as we address the challenges from a safety and security point of view that hamper us from achieving what we've set out to achieve. There are 4 provinces which we classify as hotspots, and for that reason, we're focusing on dealing decisively with crimes in these provinces, namely Gauteng, KwaZulu-Natal, Eastern Cape, and Western Cape, without losing any focus on others as well. Our top priorities are reducing murder, removing unnecessary firearms from communities, removing drugs, fighting GBVNF together with other role players, and of course other related crimes that are on the increase as we observe, including kidnappings, extortions, cash in transit, heist, and stock theft. On all of these crimes, plans are underway to bring all these crimes under control effectively. As a means of effectively reducing crime, we have identified several key enablers, inclusive of using and improving our technology, strengthening our crime intelligence, capacitating and upskilling our detective services, improving and expanding our forensic services, and improving the general environment under which police officers work. The Employee Health and Wellness Workshop, convened in February this year, sought to to address all SAPS internal issues at work that relate to their personal matters and conditions of service. These were processed through various commissions and now endorsed by the summit. Going forward, we assist with the implementation of these resolutions. We have made mention of the budgetary constraints, but we have also committed on maximizing the budget allocated and the resources of at our disposal. Business has also come on board, and we are delighted that they have actively come on board. Through our partnership, there are projects aimed at capacitating particularly our detective services, improving on our technology and increasing our laboratories. But also in terms of partnerships, we are delighted that our partnerships with metros in particular is moving from strength to strength. The people of South Africa demand policing that is efficient, effective, and accountable. The people of South Africa demand a police service that is worthy of their trust. And most importantly, the people of South Africa demand that we act. As I conclude, I want to confirm, or I want to reaffirm our commitment, and indeed, and that reflects the values and aspirations of the National Commission.
Thank you very much, Minister of Police, Mr. Senzo Mkhunu, the Deputy Minister of Police, Mr. Kassan Matale, CEO of SIRA, Mr. Chauke, National Head of DPCI, Lieutenant General Dr. Advocate Libya, Deputy National Commissioner for Crime Detection, Lieutenant General Sibia, Divisional Commissioners present, senior officers, ladies and gentlemen, and members of the media, good morning. We receive our greetings this morning on behalf of South African Police Service. As per the Minister's overview, we address this media briefing at the backdrop of having concluded a significant, highly constructive and successful 3 days maiden National Policing Summit. Over the past 3 days, we progressively engage with seasoned researchers, academic leaders, business sectors, subject matter experts. The Policing Summit 2025 themed Efficiency in Action, Optimizing South Africa's Policing Potential was convened to address high crime rate, the reduced public confidence in law enforcement, the police service that is operating under increasing demands and limited resources. During the summit deliberations, we assessed the current state and performance of the SAPS focused on operational efficiencies, and we identified pragmatic strategies that will improve and advance maximum effectiveness in policing, while strategically repositioning the SAPS to ensure long-term relevance, heightened professionalism, and the restoration of public trust. Ladies and gentlemen, in making this momentum hosting of the Policing Summit and to demonstrate the unwavering commitment to the SAPS, to the summit resolutions and program of action, the SAPS will establish a National Policing Summit 2025 operations room. This facility will be used as a permanent scoreboard where we will track and trace progress on the resolution of the summit periodically for the next 5 years. We believe that this significant move will hold the management of SAPS accountable to the nation as we commit to the repositioning policing in this country. This will equally respond to the directive of His Excellency, the President of the Republic of South Africa, Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa, during his address at the opening of the Policing Summit on Tuesday, 8 April 2025, when he reiterated the importance of positioning Batupele principle at the center of policing and reduce violent crime by half in the country. With other key stakeholders, will outline the implementation plan with clear indication of the immediate, medium, and long-term deliverables, which is aligned to the Saps Strategic Plan 2025-2030 and equally supported by the ministerial priorities and the medium-term development plan. At its core, the summit sought to create a collaborative, multi-sectoral platform for, first, critically assess the current state and performance of the SAPS, exploring the root causes of operational inefficiencies, engaging diverse voice to debate, present and reflect on what is working and what is not in the current policing approach. Identify the pragmatic strategies that can enhance the service's ability to deliver safety and security more effectively. The summit's focus was not on theoretical discussion alone, but rather on diagnosing real operational challenges, understanding community perceptions, and analyzing systemic shortcomings. The summit placed special emphasis on rethinking how Saps can maximize its impact within existing constraints while repositioning itself for long-term relevance, professionalism, and enhancing public trust in policing. Reflections on key themes and discussions. The first one was police presence versus visibility, reimagining service delivery. The first day of the summit interrogated the difference between being seen and being felt in communities. While the SAPS often reports on patrols and deployments, the quality and impact of these efforts on safety perceptions was central to the conversation. Discussions reflected a disconnect between visible policing efforts and the actual community safety outcomes, prompting a call for a more intentional, impact-focused presence. Experts and community representatives explored how evidence-based police models have already demonstrated success in certain localities, highlighting the need to scale and replicate those models. The discussions addressed the importance of police behavior and conduct during interactions with the public. Poor conduct erodes public trust, while ethical, respectful, and professional engagement foster cooperation. Participants reflected on how small day-to-day interactions shape broader public attitudes towards SAPS. A notable thread through all discussions was the recognition that active citizenry, community involvement in crime prevention is not just desirable but essential. Sessions emphasized practical steps for creating structured and partnership with the evolving policing landscape. They too was the foundation for plenary discussion, offering a whole of government, whole of society approach. Dynamics, including rapid and pressure points that directly affect policing demand and infrastructure requirements. Sessions challenge Saps to rethink stationary configurations, resource allocation, and service delivery models to address high crime areas. Firearm control and the proliferation of explosive and ammunition were discussed with urgency, recognizing the significant impact of ideal weapons that have on violent crime and limitations on current legislative enforcement. Each discussion framed policing not as an isolated service but as a node within a wider ecosystem of safety which requires coordination across all tiers of government, civil society, and the private sector. Third was harnessing technology for a safer South Africa. The afternoon of day 2 shifted the attention to technology as a transformative tool in the modernization of policing. The session interrogated both current applications and future potential, asking how the summit discussions address real-time crime tracking, GIS mapping, artificial intelligence-driven analytics, and deploy resources more efficiently. Emphasis was placed on data quality, interoperability of systems, and the critical need for digital literacy within the SAPS. Several discussions raised the issue of station infrastructure and how underinvestment in ICT hardware, security, and connectivity continues to hinder technology uptake. Community engagement was a recurring concern, particularly on how digital platforms could be used to create new, accessible channels for reporting crime, sharing information, and building accountability. The role of technology in solving complex crime, particularly in areas like digital forensics, intelligence gathering, was explored with practical examples of local innovation and international best practices. Police safety and station security were also addressed with experts showing panic alert systems, CCTV, and threat detection technologies that can mitigate the risk of officers and the infrastructure. Technology was consistently framed not as an end itself, but as a means to improve decision-making, increase response time, and enhance community safety. The fourth one was excellence in policing, building a skilled and professional workforce. Day 3 of the summit opened with the results of the Saps morale survey, which painted a picture of low morale, high stress, and operational fatigue among police personnel. This became a powerful backdrop for discussions on organizational culture and performance. The summit deliberation focused on how human capital development, including more vigorous recruitment processes such as integrity testing, targeted upskilling, and leadership transformation. It was also resolved that recruiting the right people into policing, those with integrity, resilience, and the right temperament, was fundamental to long-term service excellence. The psychological well-being featured prominently. The summit explored how the trauma of daily exposure to violence affects performance, judgment, and long-term health. The session on career development and mentorship underscored the need to move beyond compliance, training towards deliberate leadership, pipelines, and structured professional growth pathways. A core reflection was that professionalism is not a static standard, but a culture that must be nurtured through consistent values, recognition of good work, and accountability for poor performance. The leadership with integrity was described as the cornerstone of a credible and effective Saps. The discussion advocated for stronger systems to monitor and support ethical leadership, including transparent disciplinary processes. The session laid bare the internal realities that have an impact on service delivery and showed that efficiency cannot be achieved without a motivated and supported, well-led workforce. Members of the media, the SAPS reiterate its commitment in addressing crime challenges and further implement and improve policing service that will create safer communities and building confidence. I reiterate that as South African Police Service and with our key stakeholders, we are going to come up with an implementation plan that will have time frames which will focus on those areas that we can implement on the immediate, those that we can implement on medium term, and very few, if there are, in the long term. And that plan will then be monitored, as we say, quarterly, where we will ensure that we implement those that affect Saps, and of course our stakeholders also. They will assist where they are relevant to do performance in those areas that are relevant to them. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much once again to the Minister of Police for taking us through the overview of the summit, but more especially focusing on the policing priorities for this administration in the next 5 years. But also to the National Commissioner of Police for taking us through day by day since the beginning of the policing summit on Tuesday the 8th up until we concluded the summit yesterday. Most of you are very much familiar now because we literally camped with some of the members of the media that are here. Minister, they were with us from Monday evening when we hosted the business dinner with the business community led by Business Against Crime South Africa. And they were there Tuesday, Wednesday, up until yesterday, very late in the afternoon, they were still with us. And they are still with us here this morning, and we are addressing now South Africa to tell the country where the policing direction is going. Right now, Minister, we are going to be opening the floor for any questions, if there are any. We will run with the drill of introducing the media house that you are representing and pose the question to the panel that is here in front of us. I'm noting one hand at the top, so it will be in this order. 1, 2, 3. So it's 3 hands in that particular order. Thank you very much.
Witness News. Minister, during your opening address at the opening of the policing summit, you spoke about the digitalizing of the docket management system, as well as working closely with the private sector and private businesses to open more forensic labs in each province. We know the issues with the current state of the forensic labs, with only there being 3 in the country at the moment. And you said that you were looking at opening up a forensic lab in each province. Can you possibly just explain a little bit more, or talk a little bit more to that, and possibly provide a timeline as to when some of these things will be initiated? And then my second question is to the CEO of CIRA. Regarding the draft amendments to the Private Security Regulation or Industry Regulation Act, can we just get some clarity as what's the motive behind it? Because a lot of industry is that they're having to work together closely with Saps in fighting criminals that are also in possession of high caliber weapons. So can we just get some clarity around what's the motive behind regulating the sort of firearm and ammunition?
Good morning. My name is Tato, capable, let me say. So, the implementation plans are still to be set in place. Does this mean, just asking for clarity, that we're still unclear of presentations that were made to the police from the... What will this look like? And this one is also just another more specific question, but separate from the earlier one. An idea of when we will see that happen? Thank you.
Junior Kumalo from Newsroom Africa. Firstly, to the Minister, you spoke about the adoption of new technologies following this summit. Could you please be more specific on which technologies are going to be implemented and, if possible, just the timelines as well? And to the National Police Commissioner, you spoke about the establishment of a National Policing Summit Operations Room. How do you in your opening speech, you spoke about the digitization of the docket management system in partnership with the business sector. How is this going to happen? Is the business sector going to be preview to some of these dockets? I think there is a lot of skepticism around that. Is the business sector going to now have this information staying within their own systems? I'm not sure, to instill trust between the police and communities. One organization, AfriForum, is taking the minister to task over allegedly saying that the principal at Bedview was a suspect. Will the minister be apologizing to that principal as well as South Africans, or is the minister going to wait for AfriForum to instill a civil case? Thank you.
Thank you very much for the questions that have been posed. Minister, I would then request that the minister will take those that the minister can respond to and accordingly then designate the rest to the panel, members of the panel. Thank you very much, Minister. I will welcome you again once more to the media.
No, thank you very much for giving me authority to distribute labor. I'll take the first question on what our partnership with business entails. And CIRA-related questions in terms of amendments will be taken by the CEO. I can just make one comment or so there. And then the rest, body cameras and other matters will be taken by a national commissioner. And then technology timelines, all of those, and how it will work. And then I'll take the AfriForum one. Let me start. It's a deliberate act on our side. We close gaps, whether they're budgetary or they're in numbers in terms of Saps, where such partnership would result in policing getting much more effective and efficient. Let me make examples. We started off with partnerships with municipalities that have police, like the metros. To us, it was clear if people in Gauteng complain consistently about not seeing visibility of police in their areas as they would wish, and we come back and say we're doing our best, but we don't have such numbers as would meet exactly what they are wishing for. It was clear to us that in order to meet our commitments better, we needed to take advantage of metropolis that we have around in the metros. And we then entered into negotiations, and we ended up signing a memorandum of understanding or agreements. Now, what has this resulted into in terms of actual augmentation? Firstly, I must mention the participation of provinces in these agreements in which those metros are. The province like Gauteng, they've bought cars, helicopters, and they've also recruited on their own a number of people in law enforcement and metros have police, they are police, and they have cars, they have other things that we need, like cameras, like fiber, and all of those. Now, these things are coming together in a systematic way, coordinated by our technology people, and under the guidance of the National Commissioner, and including collaborating on the ground in terms of policing and so on. It's not yet where we want it to be, but it is shaping up. We also have similar initiatives in Durban and in Nelson Mandela Bay. But the purpose is effective partnerships that will have an impact in policing as it is. But we've gone beyond that. On Monday, as we're indicating, we had a dinner with business where we firmly concretize our relationship by getting business committing into 5 commitments that we will implement jointly. They include upgrading a number of identified police stations. There are 5 all in all that we'll start with in the country, and digitizing dockets and all of those matters. Now, we want to see this working, and you ask me about time frames. There is a partnership forum that was established there, and they are now beginning to work as we end our summit, or as we ended our summit yesterday. We expect them to, at the beginning of the week, to start effectively working on implementation, and where money is not a barrier, and all of that. Now, you asked about confidentiality. Now, let me take an example of the health department. They would have partnerships to say a particular company is collaborating with them to contribute in various aspects of health matters. What does it mean? Does it mean that they go to wards and sit there themselves and watch doctors operating on patients just because they contributed? It doesn't mean that. It just means that they make a contribution, they whatever contribution of what has been identified as would be helpful in the cause. But they don't need to be presently there, and they don't need to secretly watch whatever is happening. And they understand this, and we understand this. It's merely availing necessary resources. For instance, if, like Gauteng, they have donated a number of cars to Saps, does it mean that they will drive them? Does it mean that they will always be present when these cars are driven around? No, it doesn't mean that. It's just contributing and allowing the authority to do as per their mandate. Now, let me then go on to talk about, Sarah, I said, will understand and will deal with this, and body cameras and on technology, timeframes, and all of those. Let me go straight to the AfriForum question. On the AfriForum question, we've been made aware that AfriForum have issues to discuss with us, with me in particular. They've written a letter. We are handling the matter. What do I mean by handling the matter? They didn't write to me directly. They wrote to the National Commissioner, and I got the letter yesterday. And so we're handling the matter going forward. Thank you very much. I would maybe request that Chauk comes forward first, and then National Commissioner to deal with.
Thank you very much, Minister. Good afternoon to everyone. I think the first I must say that it's important for us to clarify the concerns around the issue of the draft regulations. The first aspect is that there will be no disarming of the private security industry at all. So we don't intend to disarm anyone. Secondly, there will be no one who will lose his job because of these regulations. And the primary purpose, I think, requires us to give a little bit of a background. First of all, we must acknowledge that we are talking about the private security industry. So we are not referring to individuals. We are not referring to people who own their own private firearms. So we are talking about people who are providing a service that is paid for and that often encroach into the public space. And thirdly, I think we must also acknowledge that the objective of regulating the private security industry is done in the national interest and it is done in the public interest. And I think we've emphasized that quite extensively in our legislation. What are we regulating? We're regulating conduct. And what sorts of conduct are we regulating? We're regulating the possession, issuing, and use of firearms. So these are the three aspects that we are regulating. So we're not regulating the licensing of firearms. So if they still need licensing, the firearms, the categories, any weapons that they wish to get, SAPS is still open to do that. The Firearms Control Act is there, and I think it permits that. Those applications are still ongoing, so there will be no prohibition with regard to that. And I think if there's anything that we are attempting to do here is to restrict the random use of firearms without any consideration whatsoever that is security related. And the first basic issue that one must accept is that before you provide a security service, there needs to be some form of a risk assessment. So if you cannot conduct a risk assessment, then it's a problem. You certainly, either you don't understand the industry very well where you are. So that's the first thing. So the categorization of the different weapons and their different use in different circumstances is quite very important. And if you look at how we've crafted the regulations, and I've noticed that perhaps some might either not have read the entire regulations or have not interpreted it correctly, but we will try to improve in the next round on how it is written so that people understand it. It is not prohibitive completely, so it restricts use in certain areas, which we will still improve, I think, in the description of those areas so that it's quite very clear and broad to people. But it also says you may use these weapons, but for you to use these weapons, there are requirements. And the first requirement, we're saying that do risk assessment and tell us if it's necessary for you to use that weapon there. Is it in the public interest? And I'll give examples. If you use a rifle in a mall where there's quite a lot of people, there's already security there in the mall that provides security. There's already cash in transit that works in there. We had one incident where a rifle was discharged in a mall and a child was hurt. And that guard was supposed to have an ordinary pistol if he was required to carry a pistol. As we were debating these issues, just this week we had a known businessman somewhere in Mpumalanga that kicked out all the patrons in a restaurant with 12 bodyguards, with his wife and a dog, to come and have dinner. So these are the sorts of incidences that we seek to control. So we are saying we don't have an issue with the businessman, we have an issue with the security service provider. You cannot operate where you violate other people's rights and the public. So that's what we're seeking to protect. So we want us to read those draft regulations in that context, not in the context of prohibition or people losing jobs. There will be no losses of jobs. So there's also different requirements that we are bringing, such as the requirements for you to do mental assessment, physical assessment, and so on. We understand the cost that goes around that. I think those are things that we can debate and see the modalities of how do we implement those things and who should carry the cost and the best way of doing it without interfering with the job. And even the use of certain weapons that are restricted. If you want to use it at immediate, the quantities of the ammunition, which is already said, by the way, in the Firearms Control Act at 200. We're saying not more than the reasonable quantity. And we're not saying don't use so much. We're saying risk assessment should. open to discuss. We've already received over 6,000 representations. The closing date is the 25th, and the minister have said that we have engaged the minister. We will definitely be doing more extensive consultations in all the provinces, online and physical, and so we look forward. So what we are appealing is that if you and say you have a problem with a particular provision, give us the alternative, because even in the draft we're saying, if you want to use a rubber bullet, we're saying to you there is an alternative to a rubber bullet, which will be less lethal than a rubber bullet can be. There's an alternative to a sponge bullet, a plastic bullet, and all of those things. The tear gas, there's a pepper spray as opposed to a tear gas. All of those things have got alternatives. Put your risk assessment should tell you what are the alternatives that will be less lethal to members of the public. We're not saying don't use them at all. If you want to use rubber bullets, so be it. But motivate and tell us that rubber bullets, we have tough people here. We cannot be removed with an ordinary sandbag that comes out of the same weapon. We have not prohibited the weapon, by the way. We've prohibited the ammunition that is used there. So I can go on and on. And I think if we do research, you will see that some of these issues are quite very little, and they can fatally injure people. I've attempted to answer that question. I think we'll take more questions. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, on the implementation plan, the summit have given us the what, and they describe that in detail, and the how part. So what is left of us as Saps is to then put this into an implementation plan to say what are we going to do what by when. So the implementation plan will be working on it, and once we are done, we will be able, of course, it will be linked to budget in terms of what we have, so we will be able to say what is it that we can do within this current financial year, and what are those action plan or activities that we can implement in the outer years. That will be shown on the implementation plan correctly. In terms of the National Policing Summit Operations Room, who will be part, the National Commissioner together with the Deputy National Commissioners will be part, and the Divisional Commissioners and Provincial Commissioners will be reporting. They will be the ones that we expect delivery, so they will be reporting in terms of performance on the various key performance areas that they would have been given. Docket management, I think Minister did explain that. Business is assisting us. It's not to say they will tap into whatever. If they assist us with hardware or assist us with funding, that which we will be procuring is not to say it is theirs. It is our information. Technology implementation, we are looking forward that this year we're going to roll out body cams. We won't be able to roll out, of course, the whole service, but there will be key areas, especially the frontline policing. Those are the areas that we are targeting. Frontline, we refer to your CSC, your Highway Patrol Flying Squad, and your POP. So those are the areas that we'll be targeting, and also the rollout. And of course, we are also looking forward to that we integrate in terms of technology. You heard earlier we talk about systems interoperability. We have what is called IJS, Integrated Justice System, where we want to link from Home Affairs Saps, all the system links up to correctional services. So we are looking forward that happens this current year. And of course, from Saps side, we are looking forward to integrate most of the current available CCTV cameras that you find in municipalities, along highways, townships, to make sure that they link up to what we call provincial operational command centers, which all the provinces currently do have. I think that is basically all. Am I leaving something? Yes, I did. Okay. No, thanks.
We will then take a second round of questions if there are any. If there are no hands, we will request those that are online, probably. Okay, I see their hands. So let's start with those that are in-house. Then we'll move on to the online platforms. Can I just see those hands once again? It will be 1, 2, 3. I guess this one is a follow-up, Junior. So those questions in that particular order. Can we hear them? You can go ahead, sis.
Good morning, my name is Kinilwe. I'm from Kaya FM. Minister, I'd like to just get your comment and response after reports that the IPID withdrew the investigation from the Police Commissioner in KwaZulu-Natal, from Panazi. Obviously, this is after the withdrawal of that anonymous complaint that was initially made to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Bernington from ENCA. My question, I think, is to the Minister or the Commissioner. I think probably the Commissioner. Just back to that, the National Policing Summit Operations Room again. I understand that we're still in the working out what it looks like and all of that sort of thing, but I think the country is a little bit fatigued in terms of the plans that are put together to respond to situations. And additionally, the issues that have been raised about what's happening in the police are issues that have been known for a long time. So just maybe, what does success look like in terms of this 5-year plan or over the next 5 years? And then who's responsible should this not work? I understand the Minister doesn't want us to be Minister or Commissioner, and the summit itself must just be something that goes on. But who then becomes responsible should we be in the same position in 5 years' time, where the issues that have been raised here about crime, the different crimes, are still happening? And again, just in terms of, I understand it's still being put together, but aren't there any initial time frames or timelines at least to say that we want to be doing this by a particular time? I understand the Commissioner said that from next week there'll be a group that will start working on this, but again, we've had these things that are put together where actions must be taken. But what do we say when we report in a quarter? What do we say next quarter is success? Yes, and then maybe just another question. Oh, the other question is on community involvement. This has been coming up a lot at the summit from what I heard of it. And in general, that community involvement needs to be a thing that happens. So CPFs already exist. Is there a lack of satisfaction maybe with how police work with CPFs? Or are communities not buying into things like CPFs when they are not happy with police?
Thank you very much. Let's take the next hand.
Thank you. This is Tato Folola from News 24 again. I just wanted to ask a follow-up regarding and for clarity around the funding of these future implementation plans. If we're partnering with municipalities, if we're going to have a lot more visibility, where will the funding from this come from? Will police officers be given more overtime? Because I understand that that's been an issue with law enforcement recently. So mainly just clarity on how these implementation plans, once they come into effect, will be funded. And just a follow-up when it came to Mkwanazi and the support for the KZN Commissioner, but also what's being done to particularly go after those who are selling illegal firearms. Thank you.
Okay, Junior Kumalo again from Newsroom Africa province, about 450 of them, that Provincial Commissioner of KwaZulu-Natal. That complaint that was allegedly laid with IPID, the minister's office has clarified that it wasn't the minister, but has this tainted the relationship between yourself, minister, and the provincial commissioner? And just the support, there was supposed to be a march today for the provincial commissioner. Is the provincial commissioner under attack as that protest was suggesting? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We have got those 4 questions, Minister, and we'll request the Minister to take the lead in the answering and delegate accordingly. Okay, I missed that one. I'm sorry. I could not recognize your hand. Oh, the online questions, yeah. Let's deal with them all at once. Thank you very much.
From Shannon Merricks, representing CBC Africa. First question, we have been reliably informed that at least 10 people are gunned down in Eldorado Park, Riverlea, and Westbury Command. Is that true or false? Second question, did IPID investigate any cases in police stations in Eldorado Park, Riverlea, and Westbury in the past 12 months? Third question, what is the police plan to silence the guns in the townships? Last question from Shannon is, Orange Farm, Enadale, and Soweto are in a taxi war. Several people have been gunned down in the past 7 days. What is the police plan for action? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that is all that we can cover for this segment. Minister, let me request the Minister to take the lead. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. National Commissioner will answer the more difficult questions on the south of Johannesburg and all those other matters. Let me take the IPID issue. Let me start by saying, under or as part of our portfolio, we have IPID, or no, we have Saps firstly. Then we have IPID with their independence. They are an institution under democracy. We then have CIRA, which is also independent. We then have Civilian Secretariat with a DG. And then we have the Hawks that are led by General Libya, which is part of South African Police Service. Now, each one of these institutions were ushered in through democracy, and they have specific duties outlined very clearly to their heads, and they function accordingly. Now, I'm just making a general statement on that so that they are understood to be there and they are answerable even to Parliament and to the people of South Africa. You are talking about of IPID and the Provincial Commissioner of, I am reading from media, just to nothing formal, that is, if there's been a withdrawal, I am not private to that. It would mean that they took a decision and they communicated a decision, not to me, but to the person that they have to deal with in accordance with the way they work and their mandates. Now, they have not briefed us. What IPID does, for people to know, they decide when they want to brief the minister. They decide on what they would brief the minister. They also decide on whatever detail or not detail. And you are not expected to say yes or no. You are expected to note what they are saying and so on. So generally, they are an independent body. They have not briefed us or updated us on anything in that regard. But we are aware through reading what is being said in media as such. They don't have to inform us when they take decisions and the nature of decisions that they take. Unless they decide on their own that for this let us give Minister this extent of detail if they so wish, and so on. Now, there is a question about my relationship with PC Mkwanas. And I'm sure it's in the context of these matters. But let me just go a little bit above that question first. I have very good relations with all PCs in the country. There are 9 of them, and they include those who are acting. I have very good relations with them. And they are doing their work well. If there is any complaint on my side, it is that they must work harder on criminals. I must see people phoning and saying we're extremely satisfied and safe where we are, and so on. If there's any complaint, it will be around that. Nothing beyond that. Now, if you want to be specific and say what are my relations with Commissioner Mkwanas, they are very good relations, just like I have very good relations with all other commissioners in the province. Except that I come from KZN, he also is operating there. And so we speak isiZulu, sawubona, kunjani, injani impilo, kuhamba kanjani lapha. So those matters, that's how we relate, as it were. Now, the last question is on 450. Oh, no, on CPFs. CPFs, they were here, all provincial heads or chairs of CPFs. They requested, together with the national chair, they requested that we have lunch yesterday together. We did. We had a good chat. We agreed on a meeting in the next few weeks, and where we'll deliberate on matters of interest on their side. And I did say that I also am interested in having a discussion with them. So there is a meeting that is coming with them. We work very well with them. And on funding, on partnerships, we've explained this, but let me just clarify that if a partner, a private partner, wants to make a contribution in crime fighting, it doesn't mean that they will give you money, put it in your pocket. They will decide how their money will be used. And so far, it goes to what we require. If it's cars, it will go to vehicles. If it's a lab, it will go to the expenses of setting up a lab. And there's I'm quoting that one specifically because it is mentioned specifically in our collaboration with the private sector as of Monday when we had dinner. Finances will go to, or funding will go directly to that. How do you identify criminals? There could be various ways that you do so. If somebody, as an example, were to be charged, I'm specific there, of attempted murder, and they win the case, it means you have them on record as such. And if they do it once, there's no reason why you should all of a sudden believe that the acquittal means that they can't be a second time where they do that and all of those things. I suppose Premier had various ways with police in identifying that. We haven't discussed that particular aspect. I'm merely making an example of how that can happen at times. At times, police would be confronted by people in CITs. They would tell you there were 15 suspects that were involved in that heist. They only were able to arrest 2 or 3. So the remainder, where do they go? They are identified. It means that when you catch 2 and 13 are remaining, that's your tally. You count. There are 13 people who we haven't yet had our hands on, who were attempting to do 1, 2, 3, and we didn't succeed in neutralizing them in one way or the other. So you count. They add on your tally, and I suppose that there would be other private sector, private security companies. They do indicate their figures. They would tell you in Johannesburg we more or less have a particular number, Johannesburg alone. Thank you very much. I think National Commissioner will deal with the other questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. On the question of the National Police Summit Operations Room, the implementation, the Saps management, led by myself, will be responsible for the implementation. We will, of course, work out key performance areas, allocate fundings, and those that we can implement with the immediate, we will do so. Those that might require implementation in the outer years will also be put as such. So, of course, implementation will be based on what can we afford within Saps and what can also our partners afford in terms of assisting us, and that's how the implementation is going to be monitored. And of course, at the end of the day, we will be responsible for the implementation of this plan as Saps management. Time frames, as I said, we will allocate. It won't be one size fits all. The time frame will be those that are short term. Some will be 3 months, 6 months. There will be those that might be a year or so. So once we finalize the implementation plan, it will be, and I think Minister spoke about it. You should be aware that the past 2 years we allocated included your reflectors, your warm jackets, torches, vehicles, and so on. So we will add the needs currently in terms of this financial year, and we will take it in that line. Funding for projects, there are those projects that we will fund as Saps, and there are those that we will do, as I said, most of CCTV municipalities have, malls have. Of course, we will be responsible then to pay for integration of those systems and relaying to our provincial operational command centers. Wanted list, General Sibias is here. He does have a wanted list. So it's not to say we monitor those people. When we put you on wanted list, it means we want you. There are teams out there looking for all those specific people countrywide. There were questions around, let me check if I did not answer all. Or the other 4 from online, yeah. In terms of the El Dorado Park, we do have, Gauteng is one of the provinces where we have established anti-gang unit. And the anti-gang unit of Gauteng, headed by a brigadier, is responsible for all gang-related, all anti-gang related activities in Gauteng, and Eldos is one of the policing areas that they are focusing on. And I do get briefings regularly in terms of what they do, and we keep changing our strategies in the fight against crimes. Quite a number of firearms that we recover regularly every week and make arrest at that specific township, both Eldos and your Riverlea areas. In terms of silencing guns, should be in the public domain that for the past 6 years, we have destroyed 279 guns or firearms, 279,000 firearms in the past 6 years. And we continue, of course, confiscating, arrest people. Weekly, we confiscate average 130 firearms and also arresting people to that effect. Since May 2023 to now, we arrested 9,816 suspects for illegal possession of firearms. So that's what we do. There was a question around a member that was found in possession of illegal firearms. I'm aware of that matter. Is a matter of Nelson Mandela Bay District, and I've seen that the trial officer have given that member a suspension sentence for very serious offenses, including possession of illegal firearm. I mean, if we find a member of Saps in possession of an illegal firearm and you give him suspended sentence, it means you say he must still carry on getting other illegal firearms. So definitely that matter, we will follow the due processes in terms of legality to deal with that matter. That type of sanctions is unacceptable, and we won't tolerate such, and we will be able to deal with it in terms of various policies, including the reviews. The Provincial Commission of Gauteng does have established a team that deals with taxi violence. We are aware of the taxi violence that have engulfed the south of Gauteng, including Soweto, and together with the Department of Transport, they are seized with that matter with a view to resolve the matter. And I'm also going to engage relevant role players in Gauteng regarding the Soweto matter, because it looks like there's problems, there's a court judgment and there's an arbitration which findings they clash, and at the end of the day the two taxi organizations there becomes fighting for the route. So we will be involved in that with a view to resolve the situation. Thank you.
Thank you very much once again to the Minister and the National Commissioner for those responses for that segment that we had of questions. I don't see any other hand, Minister, and I think we have exhausted the questions online. The other media group was also responded to because it was similar questions. And I believe, Minister, then that takes us to the end of this media briefing for today. No, Junior, there's nothing. No, his hand is not up. Oh, okay. Okay, Shoni, yes? Oh, the PCKZN matters, I think Minister addressed them. You want that specific response to the match in KZN that was cancelled, but the match was cancelled. It's no longer, it did not take place. So I think it is in that manner that the match did not take place as planned. And I think the matter is concluded in that way. I think we are fine with that, because we are all aware that there was a planned match, but it did not take place. There is an indication that I must just look at my Brigadier Mate. I don't. Clifford from Jacaranda. Do you want to read that? Okay. There is a question from Clifford from Jacaranda FM to General Libya. How far is the investigation into the AfriForum treason charges? And I think the second question is then answered because it was related to the KZN matter that has already been responded to. Minister, if we may request the General Libya just to give us a response to that question. And I think it will be all. After General Libya will then conclude as such. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the question, and good morning to all the viewers. As a point of departure, we do not want, when we are conducting investigation, label who is the possible suspect. But with the understanding, we can just indicate that the investigation on the 4 cases that have been reported is continuing. We have also had an opportunity to revisit some of the witnesses, and that is the normal process of gathering evidence. Once we have completed the investigation, which we are obviously from time to time coordinating with the National Prosecuting Authority, they will be able to make a decision. I think that is where we can say at this stage. Thank you.
Thank you very much, General Libya, for that response, and to all the responses that we received today, led by yourself, Honorable Minister, and for having done justice to this media briefing, in particular the policing summit that we had in the past 3 days. And thank you very much once again to Minister DM, National Commissioner, the CEO of CIRA, National Head of DPCI, General Libya, General Sibia, and the Civilian Secretariat for Police Service. Thank you very much. Members of the media, we value your support as we together fight crime in this country. This media briefing then comes to an end, and it is agenda as such. God bless you. Thank you very much.